Have you ever been surrounded by people and still felt completely alone? Perhaps you were sitting beside someone you loved, hearing their voice and watching their face, yet feeling as though an invisible distance had opened between you. Perhaps your phone remained silent when you desperately needed someone to call. Or perhaps you returned to a quiet home after a difficult day and suddenly felt that no one in the world truly understood what you were carrying. In such moments, loneliness can feel like evidence. It can seem to prove that you have been forgotten, overlooked, or separated from love. But what if loneliness is not always the absence of another person? What if it is sometimes the temporary forgetting of a presence that has never left you? Most of us were taught to search outside ourselves for signs that we matter. We learned to measure love through attention, reassurance, affection, agreement, and approval. When people moved closer, we felt valuable. When they became distant, we questioned our worth. When someone chose us, we felt whole. When someone left, we wondered what was missing within us. There is nothing wrong with longing for human connection. We are here to share our lives, to comfort one another, to laugh together, and to offer love through our relationships. Human companionship can be one of the most beautiful expressions of the divine, but no human being can remain beside you in every moment. People become distracted. Their priorities change. Some are present physically but absent emotionally. Some love you but do not know how to reach the hidden places within you. Some walk with you for many years. Others accompany you for only one season. If your entire sense of belonging depends upon another person remaining close, your peace will always be vulnerable to circumstances you cannot control. There is a difference between being physically alone and being spiritually abandoned. You may experience solitude without being separate from life. You may lose a relationship without losing your connection to love. You may walk through a season no one else understands and still remain held by an intelligence greater than the mind can explain. You may call that intelligence God. You may call it source, divine love, spirit, consciousness, or the sacred presence of life. The name is less important than the recognition that something deeper than your fear is breathing through you at this very moment. You do not have to create this presence. You do not have to earn it. You do not have to prove that you deserve it. You are simply being invited to remember it. The presence of God does not always arrive as a dramatic miracle. It may not speak through a voice from the sky. It may not immediately repair the relationship, solve the problem, or reveal the future. Sometimes it appears as a small space of peace between two anxious thoughts. Sometimes it is the strength that helps you rise from bed when your heart feels heavy. Sometimes it is the quiet restraint that prevents you from speaking from anger. Sometimes it is the desire to forgive, the courage to begin again, or the gentle awareness that whispers, "You are still here. Life is still moving through you." Think of the sky during a storm. Dark clouds may cover everything. Thunder may shake the air, and for a time it may seem as though the blue sky has disappeared entirely. But the sky has not gone anywhere. It remains behind the clouds, open and unchanged. Your sadness may be real. Your fear may be intense. Your loneliness may deserve tenderness and care, but none of these experiences represents the whole of who you are. They are weather moving through the vastness of your awareness. The peaceful presence within you does not disappear because you are afraid. It does not abandon you because you have made mistakes. It does not withdraw because another person failed to recognize your worth. It remains like the sky behind the storm. Many people believe they must solve every problem before they can feel close to God. They think peace will come when the relationship is repaired, when someone finally apologizes, when the future becomes certain, or when life begins to follow the plan they imagined. But peace may not be waiting at the end of the struggle. It may be quietly available within the very moment you are struggling. There was once a woman who spent many evenings sitting beside her bedroom window, waiting for a message from someone she loved. Every sound from her phone caused her heart to race. Every hour of silence seemed to confirm her deepest fear. She believed that if the message arrived, she would feel safe again. But the message did not come. At first, the silence felt unbearable. Her mind created 100 explanations. She replayed old conversations, questioned every decision, and searched for the exact moment when everything had begun to change. She told herself that she needed an answer. What she truly needed was peace. One evening, after exhausting every thought, she stopped trying to understand. She placed the phone on the table and allowed herself to sit quietly. Nothing dramatic happened. There was no sudden vision. No perfect explanation appeared. She simply became aware of her breathing. For the first time in many days, she noticed that life was continuing within her without effort. Her heart was beating. Her lungs were opening. The evening light was moving slowly across the room. And beneath the pain, she felt something she had overlooked. She was still present. She had been waiting for another person to return so that she could return to herself. That evening did not remove her grief, but it began to change her relationship with it. She realized that the silence was painful, yet it was not empty. There was a presence inside the silence that did not demand anything from her. It did not reject her, judge her, or ask her to become someone else. It simply remained. Perhaps you have experienced a similar silence. The ego interprets silence as danger because the ego survives through definition, comparison, control, and certainty. It wants to know where you stand, who approves of you, what another person is thinking, and what will happen next. When it does not receive an answer, it creates one. Someone becomes quiet, and the ego says, "You have done something wrong." A relationship changes, and it says, "You were never worthy of love." A plan fails, and it says, "Life is working against you." You spend time alone, and it says, "You have been forgotten." The event itself may be painful, but the story surrounding the event often multiplies the suffering. An unanswered message becomes a prophecy about your future. One rejection becomes proof that you will always be rejected. One period of solitude becomes an identity. Before anything else has happened, you begin living inside an imagined future. Your body tightens. Your thoughts become restless. You search for reassurance, review old conversations, and attempt to control what another person feels. The farther you search outside yourself for certainty, the farther you seem to move from peace. A new perspective begins when you notice what the mind is doing without condemning yourself for it. You can quietly acknowledge, there is fear here. There is a story of abandonment moving through my mind, but this story is not the whole truth. That recognition creates space. You have thoughts, but you are not your thoughts. You experience fear, but fear is not your identity. You feel lonely, but loneliness is not proof that you are separated from God. You are the awareness capable of witnessing all these experiences. The ego insists that peace depends upon what happens next. It says you can relax when someone calls, when a decision is made, when the future becomes clear, or when life finally matches your expectations. But when peace is always postponed until circumstances change, you place your inner life in the hands of everything you cannot control. This pattern often appears in relationships. You try to become kind enough, useful enough, quiet enough, attractive enough, or successful enough to make certain that no one leaves. You say yes, while your heart is asking for rest. You hide what you feel because you fear that honesty will create distance. You shape yourself around the expectations of others and call it love. But beneath that performance, there may be a silent prayer. Please do not leave me. People-pleasing often grows from the belief that love must be earned. The ego says, if I become everything others need, I will never be alone. Yet the price of avoiding abandonment by others is often the abandonment of yourself. You remain connected outwardly while becoming disconnected inwardly. You continue smiling, supporting, and accommodating, but somewhere beneath the role there is exhaustion. A quiet voice asks, does anyone know who I truly am? Perhaps the deeper question is whether you have allowed yourself to know who you are beneath the identity you created to receive approval. Your true self does not compete for love. It does not become more sacred when others approve of it or less sacred when they misunderstand it. The presence of God within you is not measured by popularity, usefulness, praise, success, or perfection. You were not created to spend your life convincing others that you deserve to exist. You are here to remember the divine nature from which you came and to express that nature through the way you live. This remembrance becomes difficult when you compare your path with the visible surface of someone else's life. You see another person surrounded by family, progressing in a relationship, achieving success, or appearing confident. Then you examine your own uncertainties and conclude that something has gone wrong. The ego rarely compares the whole truth of one life with the whole truth of another. It compares your private wounds with another person's public image. Comparison whispers, they are more loved than you. God is guiding them, but has forgotten you. Yet no two lives are meant to unfold in precisely the same way. A river does not reject its path because another river reaches the ocean through calmer terrain. One moves through open fields. Another passes between rocks. One appears peaceful. Another becomes a waterfall. Each is still moving toward the same vastness. Your life may include seasons of silence because certain truths can only be heard when the noise becomes quiet. It may include endings because you have outgrown a version of yourself that could not continue into the next chapter. This does not mean every painful event was sent to teach you a lesson. It means that nothing which has happened to you can prevent you from discovering wisdom now. Even pain can become a doorway when you stop asking it to define you. The ego also seeks control because control creates the illusion of safety. You rehearse conversations before they happen. You attempt to predict how people will respond. You analyze every possible outcome and believe that if you think long enough, you can protect yourself from disappointment. But overthinking is rarely the same as inner guidance. Often it is fear attempting to solve a future that has not yet arrived. Divine guidance is usually quieter than the ego. It does not always provide a complete map. It may reveal only the next honest action, the next loving decision, or the next moment in which you are asked to become still. You may want to know how the entire situation will unfold. Life may show you only what is needed today. A tree does not pull on its branches to force spring to arrive. During winter, it appears empty. Its leaves are gone, its branches are bare, and nothing visible seems to be happening. Yet beneath the ground, the roots remain alive. The tree does not interpret the absence of leaves as abandonment. It remains connected to the earth and trusts a process it cannot see. There may be winters in your own life. Old identities fall away. Relationships change. Plans dissolve. You do not yet recognize who you are becoming because the new version of your life has not fully appeared. The ego calls this emptiness. Spirit recognizes it as space. Space can feel frightening when you are attached to a particular outcome. You may believe that peace can return only if one specific person comes back, one prayer is answered in one specific way, or one opportunity is restored. Attachment tells you that love can reach you through only one door. Surrender allows life to reveal doors the ego has not imagined. Surrender does not mean that you stop caring. It does not mean that you become passive or deny what your heart desires. It means that you release the belief that your wholeness depends upon one outcome. You may say, "This is what I hope for. This is what I would love to experience. But I am willing to trust that peace is available before I know what happens." That willingness changes your inner energy. Your body softens. Your mind stops demanding immediate answers. You no longer argue with the present moment as fiercely as before. You begin to understand that intention is not the same as control. Intention asks, what quality of being do I choose to bring into this moment? Control asks, how can I force this moment to become what I want? You can hold an intention to live peacefully, love honestly, forgive sincerely, and act with courage. But you do not have to demand that every person and circumstance obey your preferred schedule. When your intention is rooted in love, you become less dependent upon how others respond. You can offer kindness without requiring recognition. You can speak truth without controlling how it is received. You can love another person without abandoning yourself. This is where spiritual love and healthy boundaries meet. Being loving does not require you to tolerate everything. Forgiveness does not require continued access. Compassion does not mean allowing another person to repeatedly violate your dignity. You can forgive someone and choose distance. You can release resentment without reopening the door. You can wish another person peace without returning to a pattern that destroyed your own. The true self does not confuse love with fear. It does not say yes because it is terrified of rejection. It does not remain silent because it believes another person's comfort is more sacred than its own truth. When you begin acting from alignment, you may still feel sadness. You may miss someone. You may grieve the future you once imagined. But beneath the grief, a deeper recognition begins to grow. You have not abandoned yourself. This is often where loneliness starts to change. At first, being alone may feel like evidence that no one wants you. Then it becomes a space where you can hear your own life again. You begin to notice what brings peace and what drains it. You recognize which relationships allow truth and which require performance. You stop asking, who will rescue me from being alone? And begin asking, who can meet me in the wholeness I am learning to embody? Love becomes less about rescue and more about shared presence. Before this transformation can deepen, however, you may need to meet the emotions hidden beneath loneliness. Sometimes loneliness contains grief. Sometimes it contains anger. Sometimes it carries shame, regret, or resentment. You may be grieving someone who left. You may still be waiting for an apology that never came. You may regret the years you spent trying to become acceptable to people who never truly saw you. These emotions do not mean that you are spiritually failing. They may be the places where love is asking to enter more deeply. Forgiveness becomes important here, not because the past was acceptable, but because resentment keeps your attention tied to what wounded you. You may move forward physically while returning mentally to the same conversation, the same betrayal, and the same unanswered question. You may believe that one more review of the memory will finally bring peace. But the mind rarely heals by continuously repeating the wound. Forgiveness does not mean pretending that the hurt did not matter. It means that you are no longer willing to allow the injury to determine the quality of your inner life. Instead of asking, "Why did they do this to me?" you may begin asking, "What am I ready to release so that this experience no longer lives within me as bitterness?" This does not excuse another person. It releases you. Forgiveness may begin as a small willingness. You may not yet feel ready to forgive completely. You can simply say, "I no longer want to build my identity around what happened." That willingness is already a movement toward freedom. You may also need to forgive yourself. Many people feel alone because they have become their own harshest companion. Even when no one else is judging them, they continue the judgment within. Perhaps you regret remaining in a relationship too long. Perhaps you regret leaving too soon. Perhaps you ignored your intuition, hurt someone you loved, or made decisions from a level of awareness you have now outgrown. The ego takes an action from your history and turns it into an identity. It says, "This is what you did, so this is who you are." Awareness offers a gentler and more responsible truth. What you did may be part of your history, but it is not the totality of your being. You can take responsibility without turning responsibility into lifelong punishment. Self-forgiveness says, "I see what happened. I am willing to learn. I am willing to repair what can be repaired, but I will not continue hating myself to prove that I understand." You cannot return home to yourself while constantly attacking the person you are trying to bring home. The deepest loneliness is not always the absence of another human being. Sometimes the deepest loneliness begins when you abandon the sacred presence within yourself in order to be accepted outside yourself. You leave your truth to avoid disappointing others. You ignore your intuition to preserve a relationship. You silence your needs to maintain approval. Then one day, even when people are around you, you feel strangely empty. You think you need more attention. What you may need is reunion with yourself. This is the turning point. You stop waiting for someone else to come back and begin returning to the place within you that you left behind. You return through honesty. You return through stillness. You return through forgiveness. You return each time you choose love over fear, truth over performance, and inner alignment over the desperate need to control. You begin to recognize that you are not a human being trying to earn a spiritual experience. You are a spiritual being having a human experience. Your body changes, relationships change, circumstances change. The roles you play may disappear, but the awareness observing these changes remains. There is something within you that was present before the current problem began. It witnessed your childhood hopes, your mistakes, your heartbreaks, your victories, and every version of yourself you have already outgrown. That awareness has never been rejected. It has never been abandoned. It has never been separated from Source. Fear may obscure your experience of this connection, just as clouds obscure the sky. But fear cannot destroy what is essential. You are not trying to bring God closer. You are becoming aware that the distance was created by thought. When this awareness begins to deepen, your relationship with loneliness changes. You may still feel it, but it no longer speaks with absolute authority. You can place a hand over your heart and say, "This feeling is present, but I am not abandoned." You can allow the breath to deepen. You can stop demanding that the moment become different before you offer it compassion. You can sit quietly until the mind begins to settle like dust in still water. In that stillness, you may not receive an answer in words. You may simply feel less divided. The body softens. The moment becomes enough. And perhaps this is what spiritual awakening often looks like. Not a dramatic escape from human emotion, but a gentle remembrance of what remains beneath it. You are not becoming worthy of love. You are remembering that love is your deepest nature. As this remembrance grows, you begin carrying a different presence into your ordinary life. You may start the morning with a few minutes of silence before reaching for the world. You do not need to force your mind to become empty. Simply notice the breath moving through your body. Before you take on your name, your responsibilities, your fears, and the expectations of others, remember that you are awareness. You may offer a simple intention. Today, let me recognize love where fear once spoke. During the day, notice the moments when the ego creates separation. Someone may fail to respond as you hoped. An old memory may return. You may compare yourself with another person or begin imagining the worst possible outcome. Instead of criticizing yourself, pause. Ask, am I responding to what is happening, or am I responding to the fearful meaning my mind has attached to it? That question creates space. Within that space, you regain the freedom to choose. Gratitude can also guide you back to presence. Gratitude does not require you to deny what hurts. It simply reminds you that pain is not the only reality present. A warm cup in your hands, a place to rest, sunlight moving across the wall, the sound of rain, or one peaceful breath can remind you that life is still offering itself. You begin to recognize that connection is not limited to human attention. You are connected to the earth beneath your feet, the air entering your lungs, and the silent intelligence keeping your heart in rhythm. Life is not waiting for your permission to support you. You are being carried in ways the thinking mind rarely notices. At the end of the day, you can practice letting go. Notice what you are still trying to control. Perhaps it is another person's opinion, an uncertain outcome, or a conversation you continue replaying. Imagine placing it into the hands of a wisdom greater than your own. Say, I have done what I can. I release what I cannot carry. Then allow rest to become an act of trust. Trusting life does not mean believing that everything will happen exactly as you hope. It means knowing that you can remain connected to your deepest self no matter what happens. A river does not stop being a river when it meets an obstacle. It moves around it, beneath it, or over it. The obstacle changes the shape of the journey, but it does not remove the river's nature. Your nature is deeper than what you have lost. You are not only the relationship, the failure, the fear, the aging body, or the uncertain future. These experiences matter, but they are moving through the larger field of your awareness. One day, you may look back upon a season you once called abandonment and recognize that it became the beginning of a more honest relationship with yourself. The silence taught you to listen. The loss revealed what could not be taken away. The absence of external reassurance led you toward a source of peace that was not dependent upon another person remaining close. This does not mean you will never desire companionship. It does not mean that loneliness will never visit again. It means you will know how to meet it. You will no longer immediately run from the silence. You will sit beside it. You will listen gently. You will allow it to show you where you have been searching outside yourself for what has always lived within. And when you remember, the silence will begin to feel different. Not empty, but spacious. Not like punishment, but invitation. Not proof that God is absent, but an opportunity to recognize how near that presence has always been. You have never been required to become someone new in order to deserve divine love. You are simply remembering what fear caused you to forget. You are the awareness behind the anxious thought. You are the compassion that remains when judgment softens. You are the stillness beneath the noise. You are the place within yourself where love has never left. Before we close, share in the comments what this message awakened within you. Your words may become the reminder another person needs during a lonely season. And subscribe if you would like to continue exploring these quiet journeys into peace, awareness, healing, and the divine presence within. Now take one slow breath. Allow the shoulders to soften. Release, for this moment, the need to know how everything will unfold. You may be alone in a room. You may be walking through a season no one else understands. You may be standing on a part of the path where familiar companions can no longer follow. But you are not separate from the source of life. The presence you have been seeking is not approaching from a distant place. It is already here. It is breathing through you. It is loving through you. It is quietly guiding you home. Wherever you are and whatever you are carrying, may you remember that you are held by a love that does not leave, a peace that does not depend upon circumstances, and a presence that has lived within you all along.